If you have toxic or dysfunctional parents of any kind, this will be the greatest podcast you ever watch or listen to. For me, Dr. Sherrie needs no introduction whatsoever. She is a global leader and powerhouse in the dysfunctional and toxic parent space. And in this episode, we talk about our upcoming retreat that's happening in LA on the 4th of October. And at the point of recording this, there are some spaces left if you'd like to join us. And then we dive in to hearing all of the expertise that Dr. Sherrie has. This episode is full of things to inform you when it comes to toxic parents. The highlight for me is a little anecdote, personal anecdote from Dr. Sherrie on why forgiveness is not always the right option, but how it can also be problematic, damaging, and unsafe too. Seriously, sit back and get yourself ready because this episode is phenomenal. Dysfunction is everywhere. In our families, in our cultures, and in our systems. And this is Dysfunctional, the podcast that helps you name the things that most people can or won't see. Let's call it out, break it down, and maybe even start a bloody revolution. Dr. Sherrie, here we are.
Can't wait.
How are you doing? How are you feeling?
I'm so excited, Josh. I cannot wait for our event. I just love you. I think that we are such a great dream team. So we ride at dawn. Let's go. I'm really excited.
It's crazy. And it's crazy to be here now interviewing you, with the fact that we've got an upcoming event. I mean, when did I first come on your podcast?
You came on my podcast probably a year ago, and then I wanted you on again because I had improved my interviewing skills and I wanted to give you a better interview. And so I would say you were on probably like 4 months ago.
No, it was way longer ago than that.
You think it was longer than that? Maybe 6 months ago. So maybe you were on a year ago, you came on 6 months later.
Oh, okay. So we've done it twice.
You've been on my show twice.
Yeah, okay. I thought so, yeah. It's amazing. And I think it was at the end of, must have been the last one that we did, right? We was like, we got to do an event together. And then I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then that was it. When we got off of that call, we were like, let's get the ball rolling and let's go for it.
And we literally, you guys, the ball was rolling before we got off the air. I was already reaching out to people to help. And I think what happened is someone had even mentioned to you in one of your breathwork things like, when are you going to do something with Dr. Sherrie? And it was like this idea. And so, here we are. And I really think it's just feels right.
Yeah.
And I think that the way that you and I respect each other and care about each other, and we care about this issue so deeply, and the intent is just to transform and create liberation for our cycle partners.
Yeah. And I think what makes it so good as a collaboration is we just naturally view this through like a similar lens. Like everything, you come at it with slightly different angles, but I think we both come from exactly the same place in terms of like how we're viewing it. So it's just like a match made in heaven, really, in that respect.
It really is. I don't think there's another expert out there that is as similar to me in approach and the more direct sort of ruffling the feathers. I'm not afraid to ruffle the feathers. You didn't live my life, and I'm unafraid that way. And you are too. We're not walking on any eggshells to please society or to be kowtowing to anybody. And I think that is what just draws people to both of our followings and why we are such a great team.
Yeah, I think I realized through my own story, and I think, we'll go on to talk about you and your story and stuff as well, but it's actually like to have somebody be angry about it, right? And to be like direct about it is really healing. You said we're not walking on eggshells, right? And that's healing in itself, because everybody that's been through this spends their whole life walking on eggshells. And then what you realize is you're walking on eggshells all the time, even when you don't need to walk on eggshells, just in case you need to walk on eggshells, right? So that's why I'm so direct with what I do, because I realize that healing is like, it in this instance, it's not about like, how do I be nice in a new way and find another way to make myself lovable? It's like, how do I be myself and say, like, screw everybody else, I'm going to be myself whether you like it or not, you know? I think that's really important.
Yeah, like I'm done auditioning.
Yeah.
Auditions are over. Right, Josh? It's like,
Wow,
I'm
yeah.
fucking done. I'm not auditioning anymore. I'm not going to get the fucking part. So I'm done auditioning. And what are we angry about? This is what I think is so interesting. I'm angry about child abuse.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't more people angry about child abuse? Why do I get put into this category that, oh, she's unhinged? No, I'm practically angry at a child being abused. That's a practical matter. This isn't profound. It's not deep. It's practical. You shouldn't abuse children. I always love that saying, DNA should mean do not abuse.
Mm. Yeah.
Do not abuse your own. Don't abuse anyone, but especially do not abuse your own.
Mm. There's this new, I don't know if it's new, but there's like this wave of influencer gurus out there that they're always talking about this stuff to show that they're love and light, and that like they're almost trying to teach people that you can quote unquote heal enough to not be pissed off with abuse. And I'm like, if you're not pissed off with abuse, you got something wrong. There's something wrong in you. Like, every time I hear somebody's story and they're like, this is what my parents like, it makes me angry. And I hope I never get to the stage where I'm like numb to it. You know what I mean? Because something's wrong then. Like, we should be, like, the things I hear, the stories I'm sure you hear time and time again, they should make you angry, man.
Anger is an emotion of justice.
Yeah.
It's the most honest emotion. There's not an emotion that loves you more than anger. It brings justice to an injustice. It brings truth and it puts it on the table. These fluffier influencers that are out there, they're really teaching self-sacrifice disguised as spirituality.
Mm.
So self-abandonment shouldn't wear a mask of spirituality, because at the end of the day, that mask will fall off and you're going to end up back in the self-sacrifice. Self-sacrificing creates anger and resentment.
Yeah.
We have to be angry. I have my clients write a fuck you for list.
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to see it. But what happens is, if we aren't angry, we don't have momentum. You have to think about emotions as energy in motion, like E dot motion. So if it's energy in motion and we need to have momentum, fear isn't going to do it. Sadness isn't going to do it. And anxiety isn't going to do it. We are not going to set boundaries from those emotions. We need anger to get justice. And when we have justice, anger passes. What I think is so fascinating, Josh, is that rage, not anger, but rage is the most misused emotion in parenting, while anger is the most punished emotion in children. So subcontext is, my parents get to rage on me and I'm not allowed to be angry about it. I'm sorry, but the math isn't mathing. That does not make sense. If someone's going to rage on me, I'm going to be angry about it. I'm going to get abused if someone is enraged, right? So anger is actually a really misunderstood and probably our most proactive emotion that we have. If you want to set boundaries, you better find some anger.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think that, like, even in more functional families, right? When I think about it, most parents can't handle their child being angry at them, right? So say like we, you know, come away from toxic parents even for a moment, and even like quote unquote more functional parents, if they separate when they're younger, like when the kids are young, the children should be angry about it, right? That, like, that's a normal response to what's going on. But most parents won't be able to handle that anger. So when the child is angry about what they're experiencing, they won't be allowed to have that anger. I think, by the way, and I wonder if this is like your experience too, I think it's particularly true for women. When I do inner child work with people, what I find is that men often find a little boy who's really, really sad
Mhm.
and wasn't allowed his sadness. And I find a lot of women normally start there, but then they find particularly a teenage girl who wasn't allowed to be angry. Like, and like, it's really, because I do think that boys, we get to be angry in senior school, and it's seen as, in high school, it's seen as relatively normal. We can get away with it, but girls can't. You can't. An angry girl is crazy, you know, right? It's labeled as
We
crazy.
call them psycho.
Yeah.
They're unhinged. They're unstable if a woman is angry. And that is such an injustice to women,
Mm.
right? But I do think just based on gender ideals, right? Boys are more bang, bang, bang. Girls are a little more softer, but I was a really angry teenager. I couldn't keep my anger in anymore after all I'd been through up to that point. And I got sent to therapy because not because my parents wanted me to heal, but because they wanted me to be easier for them.
Yeah. To stop
My
being a
anger
problem.
made them feel upset. My
Mm.
anger made me hard. So I didn't get sent to therapy to heal. I got sent to therapy to be easier.
Mm. How did those therapy sessions go? Did the therapist pick up on what was going on, or did they try and therapy you out of being angry?
No, the therapist that I was initially sent to, I was with for 5 years, so like 16 to 21, she saw me. It's just that, I'm 54. So back in that day, all these labels and all these things, they were not talked openly about. But what she did say to me is, you are not the problem, but you are a symptom of all the trauma. And she said to me, your family's never going to see you.
Mm.
And then I was like at 16, like, well, then how do I live there? Like, how do I? So she just kind of helped me not to suppress my anger, but we had to look at what was really getting me in trouble. And she channeled my anger into different places and gave me a lot of different homework assignments where I could vent it out in therapy, so that I wouldn't go to war. My mother and uh, I didn't understand all the games and they weren't labeled for me, but it was like poke, 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 poke. And then I'd react and she would be like, "Oh, you're abusing me." And I did react, and then I was confused. I'm like, "Well, I did maybe." So I thought I was like this bad, bad, bad person. I didn't know why I was so bad.
Yeah.
Right. And I was always like, why am I so bad? Like I try so hard to be what she likes or what she wants. And my therapist was like, we have to channel that differently. So there was really no confronting my mom for my therapist, but my therapist helped me work through the hopelessness that she was like never going to change.
Mm. You're very lucky, really, in that respect, right? You've been sent there to try and make you like more acceptable.
Easier. Yep.
Yeah, and you're very fortunate that you got the therapist that did that. Because I'd
It
imagine
was
there's some
nice.
therapists who are more inclined to work for the person who's paying the bill, right?
Most of them.
Do you
And
think
so
it's
the
most?
way,
Yeah.
because I see 40 people every week, Monday through Thursday. I see 10 people a day for 4 days.
Wow.
And tons of them come to me after having been with someone that they get to the place of no contact and the therapist morally just thinks it's wrong, and then that the patient feels terrible and now is getting abused in the therapist office because the therapist is afraid to go there or simply just doesn't agree with it, and they end up with me, which is wonderful because I've never encouraged no contact, and you and I've talked about this a lot, but I will absolutely support it.
Yeah. Before we get into that, I'm going to rewind us a little bit because I feel like we didn't
Yes.
get enough. We haven't talked enough about the retreat. The retreat is happening in LA on the 4th of October, right?
Yeah.
Why don't I just, in your own words, can you describe what you think the day is going to be about?
I see the day as being very calm. I see the day as being interactive, close, deep,
Mm.
profound, absorbing, assimilating new things. As the listeners can tell, just that we have to even rewind and go back. When Josh and I get together, it's passion. I mean,
Yeah.
we just got lost in this podcast because we are so connected to each other on like a different level, right? And we've never even met in person, you guys. Like, we just have this amazing connection. So what you're seeing here, and I really, Josh, what I really want is there's this stage of why that I think is important. But when I look at the court of law, for example, we never learn the why, because the why really doesn't matter. What why gives us is we research and we learn and we educate ourselves, but nothing that we learn will make what they did be like, oh, that's why. So what we want to do, like if we're in a criminal law, we find out how the crime went down. We don't really ever know why. And even if the perpetrator was like, oh, well, I slaughtered 4 people because I'm having a bad day. You know what I mean? Like, the why is never going to make sense to the trauma. So I want to help people understand the value of the why, but I want them to really focus on the how it went down. Because if we have the how, then we can recognize these patterns in other relationships, right? And I think it's going to be interactive. We're going to work so much on the inner child. And then I picture the Q&A to be really exciting. I love giving people a voice and allowing them space to ask us questions. I think that's going to be incredibly bonding. And I cannot wait to do the breath work, because to end in that way, in this venue that we have, it is so stunning. It's rustic, it's artistic, it's the vibe in there is just really profound and safe. And so I just picture people leaving there changed, like in a really quiet but very profound way.
Yeah, I mean, what you say about the venue, firstly, is sometimes things are written in the stars, right, or whatever that means. But like, it's a bit of a story behind it, in that there was another venue, and then it fell through for one reason or another, and you think, we're back to square one, and then straight away we hit on this venue, and you're like, wow, I'm so glad whatever happened to the last one happened, because here we are now in this beautiful space. There's a bit of a courtyard thing and that. And look, I think before me and you even turn up, the fact that you're going to have a room full of people that have all been through that similar experience, most of them are not going to have been in a room like that before, and I've run lots of events here, but they're normally, for people looking for healing for one reason or another. So we are all similar, but that, I think because of who me and you are, there's going to be another level of that. And I just think that in that room, really get into, I loved what you said about, the how, because I think the truth is really important. I see a lot of people talking online, and they're sort of, it's almost like it's another way of devaluing and dumbing down and making it more acceptable. And I think what me and you both do, and what we will do on the day, is in a loving, compassionate, safe way, is help people to just see the truth. Because I think a lot of people end up creating like a spiritual reason for why everything happened. And I get why we do that. It makes sense when you're a kid, and you got no other choice but to try and put a spiritual meaning to it. But I think that real healing happens when you go, it doesn't matter why they did this, but let's see it. Let's lay it out on the table. Let's do some work around it, and then finish with that breath work, which gives you the release of it. Like, I really do think that, I think it could be like life changing, not just for the people that come, but for me and you as well. I see that. So I'm so excited. Spaces are already going. There's not going to be many spaces left soon. So it's super exciting. And if anybody's listening or watching this and they can be in LA on the 4th of October, I would strongly encourage them to come and not miss out. Yeah.
And I think too, Josh, you can kind of tell when something's just really in a flow and meant to happen. Is the person who's helping us the most is someone who is a follower of mine and has essentially done everything for free. And this is how much we impact other people. That they see what we're doing and they want to be a part of this mission. And of course, we love Meg. So shout out to Meg. She's worked so hard for us. And I'm going to be compensating all her travel and hotel stay for her services, because everything here is about coming home. You have to live inside of you. That has to be where you reside. We want you comfortable in that space. And when you're around other people sharing in this experience of abuse, separation, conquers and divide, and you have this feeling like, I don't want to let anyone down, or I have to super please, I have to over audition. And then we want to take those patterns. We want to let them rest, because we want to replace those with something new, more functional, and better. And I think that when you're around others and you look around and you see, like, there's a whole bunch of us and there's this community, how many friendships are going to be made at this event?
Yeah.
All those things really matter, because we want to have a family. I see in many of my comments and yours, like, come to New York, come to the UK. I'm there. I mean, if this really goes well, which it's already going so well, we will be everywhere every summer. We figure something out, or every fall, because this is really important. I think it's wonderful to help, because I do so much one-to-one, that one-to-many, and everybody being in that room, in the same space, in the same pain, sharing in it. It's like it brings a truth, like you said, Josh, that this is real. And guess what? You don't have to feel good about what happened to you. You don't have to feel good about it. I kind of hope you never do. I hope that you give yourself that psychological space to go, I will never feel good about what happened to me. And I'm going to do blank with it, right? But I don't have to feel good about it to be a good person.
Yeah, it's such simple things that you're saying there, right? But like, just so important. And it just comes back to everything that we talked about, which is let's speak the truth. Let's out the truth, and let's let people have their truth. Let's not, what did you say? I'm done auditioning.
Yes.
Like, we can make that feels like it could be a theme for the day, really. No more auditioning, come home to yourself. That's what we've called it. And, that makes perfect sense in that respect, doesn't it?
Yeah, we don't want to. In a book I wrote, self-published, was a lot of poetry, but I called my family Disney. And as long as I would put on the costume that they wanted me to wear, and I'd go on the vomit ride and the get shot off the ride, almost die ride, then I could fit into that family. But I had to put the costume on to fit into Disney.
Yeah.
I don't want to. First of all, I never even wanted to audition in the first place. Let's be real. I had to. But you get to a point where you have choice. You're independent from this family now. You don't need to audition.
Yeah.
You can put that down. I think some people fear that if they don't have this family connection, that they will have no one ever. I understand that, because I've been there, and I didn't have no one ever. But for 4 years, my first 4 years of no contact, the post-separation abuse was very intense, and I felt alone. I felt very alone. I'm so glad that I just stuck through it. I'm so glad I stuck through it. And when I set boundaries, that meant more about I had to keep my own boundaries rather than expecting them to change because I set one. They're never going to change because I set a boundary. I had to learn that I have to keep my own boundaries. So if I'm no contact and they're boundary testing, I have to adhere to my own boundary and stay no contact. It was the only way that boundaries worked in this situation. Whereas if you said to me, hey, Sherrie, when you did this, that really made me mad. And I would feel so bad. I'd be like, I'm so sorry, Josh. I get it. I see it. I won't do that again. I will change my behavior. Okay. But that process doesn't work with toxic people. They're never going to accept your boundaries. So when boundary setting is happening with toxic family, you're the only one who can keep them and adhere to them by not engaging, right? So it's new, it's a different take on boundaries. And I think too, in this summit, I imagine a lot of guilt will come up. That's another thing that we see, right, Josh, all the time. And I think we really need to talk about maladaptive guilt and what that is, because you're feeling guilty for things you didn't do wrong.
Mm,
It's a truth that we can unearth.
yeah. And guilt is one of the most common things that I hear from people. And I think often, you scratch the surface and you find that it is rooted in shame, really, that they've just,
Oh, yeah.
they've got this now deep rooted idea that there's something wrong with them. And that sort of comes out, the symptom of that is feeling guilty, like they've done something wrong. Especially with them boundaries. It's really interesting what you said about the boundaries, because one of the things that I get leveled at me a lot online is people saying, why don't you just set boundaries, right? Why don't you just, like, instead of doing all this, if you just set healthy boundaries, then everything will be all right. And I think, like, look, a lot of people that say that feel called out by what I'm saying, right? So the exact people I'm talking about that that people end up going
Oh,
no
yeah.
contact from. But I do think there's this other group of people that don't understand what you've just said. I think you put it really, really well. That's why I'm just, like, highlighting it again, which is, like, if in a relationship, it, like, in our friendship, right? If there's something where it, like, a normal boundary might be where you go to me, Josh, I really don't like it when you do that. And I go, oh, wow, like, our friendship means a lot to me. I didn't realize it was doing that for you. Let me evolve, let me adapt, and let's find a way for me to be, right? That's laying a boundary to somebody that's able to respect, adapt, and evolve in accordance to the boundary. When you're talking about a toxic, horrible, whatever you want to label in person, they're not hearing that. And they never will. And I think that a lot of people end up doing is spending their whole life actually trying to promote this boundary in a way that this person may hear it and may even give a little bit towards it, but they never do, right? In this,
They never do.
yeah,
And people say, I set the boundary, but they're still doing blah blah blah. And I'm like, then you have to adhere, you have to follow the boundary.
yeah,
It's up to you. You want it to be up to them. I get it. That would be normal math. But we're in backward math in
mm,
toxic families. They are offended if you set a boundary. It is like they take it as a huge fuck you that you set a boundary because they feel such an entitlement to you. So you are the one, if you set the boundary, you have to keep the boundary, right? I really think that boundaries are designed to keep people in our lives. Like, if in our situation as healthy people, like, gosh, if I did something that upset you, I would want to grow and change so I could stay in your life, because that would be important to me because I really value you. That's normal. We cannot take that and apply that concept to toxic people. So if for example, let's say I have a clean porch and my mom comes and she puts a huge mess on my porch, and I'm like, hey, you left a mess on my porch. My mom would go, well, it's your porch.
yeah,
Or if it were different, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Let me clean this up. I want to be a good house guest, right? There's going to be a reason that they do everything. You're being dramatic. So why engage? Keeping a boundary with our toxic family is to not engage. If
mm,
you've told them no contact, you need to show them that that's real. You can't be like, but they're contacting me. Of course they are.
yeah,
That's the whole thing. If you tell a toxic family member where your boundaries are, they're like, oh, I didn't know that. That's a good place for me to piss them off or upset them, right? They take it different. There's real math and backward math. So I think that at this summit, there's going to be a lot of time in the Q&A to redefine some terms for backward math,
yeah,
right? And help them to see that there's lots of ways to set boundaries. Sometimes when you set a boundary, you have to be the keeper of that boundary. You have to follow it far more than they do.
yeah, yeah. And I think that, like, again, it comes back to this truth thing, but
Mhm.
there's some hard truths, right? And I think a lot of people end up trying to apply logic that would work in a normal relationship with somebody, because we've all got our blind spots, right? We've all got, like, in any relationship there's going to be where somebody tries to lay a boundary with me, it's going to trigger me in some way, and it might take some work, and, like, it might take some back and forth and some understanding, right? But you can't apply that rationale when you're dealing with this certain particular type of person. And I think that's the clear thing. When you have to accept in the end that there is nothing you can do that's going to
Mm-mm.
change them. There's nothing that you can do. It's not like, if I said to you, I need to lay this boundary and you couldn't quite see it, then I'd be like, oh well, clearly, let me just try and say it in another way because I need you to see it, right? And eventually you would see it. But
I would.
yeah, exactly, right. A normal human being would, but these people, they won't. And I think
You
people
know
end up
what, John?
wasting their whole life trying to do that. Yeah,
I would want to see it.
exactly. Yeah,
I have the desire to see it. I would want to see it. Toxic family members, it's like la la la. They don't want to see it. They don't want to hear it. You do as they want you to do, period. Anything outside of that, it's too much. You're too dramatic. You're a burden. And I think that we want to, also something. I saw a video you did the other day that you tagged me in about things being messy.
mm,
Right. When you grow up in toxic families, it's like you're trying so hard to be good that you get into this habit of the audition, right? I'm going to be good. I'm going to be good. I hope, I hope that people are able to be vulnerable in this summit, especially like in the breath work, like that release. I hope that they just let go and let it get through and out of their body and cry, and if you need to during our interactive things. We're all going to have tissue. We're all going to be there. Josh and I will probably cry. Like, this is it. I mean, we don't need to be good. We need to be real.
yeah,
We're going to do this summit to open that door to, this isn't an audition. There's no one here to impress. You don't need to be intimidated by anyone. You don't need to be scared of anything. We're here to open doors to healing. And if it's fucking messy, then it's fucking messy.
yeah,
Good. That
yeah,
means you're getting it out.
yeah. And the great thing about the breath work is it almost shuts your brain down and brings you into the body and brings that emotion about, even for people that like really struggle to find it. So that would be amazing. It's the perfect way to end what will be an amazing day in that respect. I'm going to keep firing questions at you, and I'm going to fire
That's
stuff that's always like leveled at me online. How do you feel about, one of the comments I often get is stop blaming parents, right? So how do you feel about that when people are saying that?
I think that when people are saying that they are stuck in a very one, they're not willing to look at themselves. And they're stuck in either, or maybe even a societal belief, right? That it's just morally wrong. This one becomes about morals for me. I've been accused of ruining the American family.
Yeah,
I'm like, honestly, if I had that much power, I would do something so different with it. So, and I
yeah,
would probably be a billionaire right now because I would bottle that. I'm given far too much power um, because I'm speaking to something that's a disruptor.
mm,
I am a disruptor. I am going counter to cognitive dissonance around all parents are good. And so when those people come at me, I block, remove, and delete
yeah,
because I know already the question shows me it's not going to be a productive conversation.
yeah,
Um, and I usually tell them, why don't you research it? I'm not a guru. I'm a psychologist. I'm an author. I'm a little podcast. I'm a mom. I'm not a guru. I don't try to answer people's questions for them. I'm curious about where they're at. If the question is posed to me in a, hey, just genuine question, not attacking you, just genuine, then I'm more than happy to do that. But it's very easy to be a keyboard warrior. And I think they're all just jokes. They're all just unhealed. Um, Sometimes I've answered with a one word answer, which is abuse.
yeah,
There's no excuse for abuse,
yeah,
period. I just try to tune those people out because they're everywhere. And it's something I see in all of my clients is they face it somehow. You're not going to go to the funeral. You're not going to this. You're not going to that. And the bottom line is, yeah, I'm not.
yeah,
I'm just not. But it disrupts. But if you think about disruptors, think about Martin Luther King Jr., think about Nelson Mandela, think about some of these people that are really disruptors. We are here to bring change and evolvement, not
yeah,
de-evolvement, evolvement. hopefully our work will inspire new parents to be better parents. This information out there can only serve and help everyone to become a better parent. You can't know what bad parenting is if you don't put it out there.
Yeah.
If good parenting is all that's out there, then we would never know what bad parenting would look like. I understand that it's probably really hard to accept that the most sacred people in the human family can be the most abused. Maybe that's just too painful for people to look at. But yes, parents can be very evil, very evil.
Yeah.
And they can abuse their children. And you may never see that abuse in public. They're not going to do that in public. They don't want to get arrested.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is parents that abuse their children are bad parents.
Yeah. Yeah. And bad people, right? They're bad people. Yeah. And
well, you know what? They were bad people before we ever showed up to be born.
Yeah.
Children don't cause bad parents as much as they would like us to believe it's our behavior that makes them that way. They were this way prior. They remain that way throughout, and they'll continue to be that way if you continue in a relationship.
And when there's been abuse and you're asking an adult child to start to take accountability for their healing, one of the main things that you need to make sure is that they're not taking accountability for the abuse that happened to them. So it's really important, I think, in the end, for somebody that's going on a journey to start at a place of realizing, what do I need to take accountability for? And so what I need to take accountability for is like what I do today, right? Mm-hmm. And what I do today is not taking accountability for the abuse that you experienced when you was a child. So you need to see it clearly. It's not about blame. It's about personal accountability. And like anybody that believes that any adult child should take accountability or responsibility for abuse that they experienced when they was a child, in my mind, if you think that that's the case, you're abusive yourself by definition.
No, you're yourself, like you're insane.
Yeah.
You know, you're actually insane. The bottom line is, I look at it like, I don't blame my parents, though I've made them accountable in my own mind and with my boundaries. But listen, what they did to me, it's mine now. It is mine. I do have to live with it. And I want to live with it well. I don't want to be perfect. I just want to evolve. It's in me. I can't get a lobotomy and get rid of my amygdala and hippocampal areas. I'm never going to forget what happened to me. But this is also why we have rear view mirrors. I don't want to forget. I don't need to sit in my sad story forever. But what I want to do is when I feel sad, I want to be fucking sad.
Yeah.
You know, when I have a day of feeling liberated, then I want to enjoy that liberation. If I have a nightmare and I wake up in a funk, then I'm going to be in the funk. It's mine to deal with. I'm never going to ask my parents to fix it. It's broke. There is nothing they could do to this day that would fix anything that they did. So it is mine. And I look at it as like, it's part of my life class in this lifetime. This is my stuff. I have to learn to live with it. There are very painful aspects of living with this, let alone going public with it and getting totally attacked online very often. You have to have very thick skin because in some ways it's like, you just start to see start to feel like, oh, there's so many abusive parents that come out of the woodwork when they're coming at an expert they've never met. You've never treated them. You've never met their kids, right? But we can't know up unless we know down. And disruptors show you where the cracks are in human evolution.
I love what you're saying about the disruptors as well, because you look at the suffragettes and things like that, and you look at, all these people that have created real meaningful change in society, like you say, at the beginning, faced abuse from everybody. What are you doing? Who do you think you are? You'll never change it, right? Like, stick to what you do as you're told and all that kind of stuff. And I do think that in society, we have golden children and scapegoats in society, right? And they just play out the same patterns within society. I wanted to pick up on something like the fact that as a therapist, right, you are a disruptor. Do you think the narrative that we both adhere to, do you think it's in the therapy world? So, if you pulled all the therapists together in a room that exist in America and the UK, Do you think that most would disagree with the way that you tackle it?
100%.
Yeah.
Because I think that people can be turned off to a disruptor before ever diving in and reading their work. I think that judgment gets passed. It's very easy to do that, to pass that judgment right away. And I think most therapists, if I'm going to be honest, the way that our ethics, we learn them is we're literally trained to be terrified of our patients.
Right.
And I refuse to adhere to that. I refuse to adhere to that. I want to love these people. I want to connect with them deeply in a very profound way. I have a waiting list down the street. I don't adhere to that. I'm not unethical. But if I disrupt someone's moral code or their ethics, whatever canned form of ethics that they've got, these are therapists who will not confront the most toxic person in their room. This is the person who gets afraid, who colludes with that person and tries to find a way out of being their therapist, right? So I do think there's not enough training on how therapists don't have enough training on this. I have a meeting coming up. They want me to start teaching continuing education units. And these are some really big events with some top speakers in this field. And my first thought was trying to imagine what kind of shit I'm going to take from these therapists. A lot of therapists too have, which I do not have proudly, a sort of a God complex, a guru complex. I really don't. I think most people think I'm a hairdresser. And I love hairdressers, but I'm like therapy Barbie. I don't play the role. I don't do the posing and how do you feel? I'm just in there to disrupt, to make people think. And I am so curious about the way that they think. And with that curiosity, how can I guide them? How can I help them? What are all of our options on the table? But I don't feel like I have answers for them. I don't feel like I'm there to do that. I want them to discover their own answers. And that's why I say, I've never encouraged someone to go no contact. Why the fuck would I do that? That is so dangerous.
Yeah.
That is not my choice to make. I respect that they have the rights to their own self-determination. That is not my right. I don't need them to do what I say to feel like I'm good at what I do, right? And because of that, I'm probably a little more of a creative person in the room. I think my catalog of work speaks for itself. That brings people to me. I'm very loving. I'm very nice. And to be honest, I'm also the dumbest smart person you're ever going to meet, Josh.
What does that even mean? What's the dumbest, smartest person?
Like the other day, I was at work and I have my lunch bag and I have my black computer bag and I couldn't get out of my car. Like literally like having a flight, trying to pull things. Josh, I never took my black seatbelt off. And I'm like in the car, like pulling. And then I realized the seatbelt was on. And I'm like, dude, how I got a PhD, like I will literally never know. I just have these moments. And I personally think it's a superpower that I'm the dumbest smart person you'll ever meet. because I'm a whole lot of like Chrissy from Three's Company. I'm clumsy. God only knows what you're going to experience with me at this summit. But it's like the other day, another one, I got up and I left my computer bag unknowingly to me next to my chair where I sit. And I stood up and my high heel went in the pocket of the side of the bag and I fell on my patient. I'm like, so I just looked at her. She's like, Dr. Sherrie. And I'm like, listen, I have my classy moves on today. I am so classy, such a doctor, I know. You know, she said to me, the next week she came in and she said, you give me permission to just be normal. She's like, I would have probably apologized a billion times that I fell down on you. I would have been so embarrassed. I would have been worried about what you thought. And I'm like, listen, just embrace the moments, right? So I don't go in with any ego. I was never raised to feel good enough or like any God. So that's not natural to me. I don't want the responsibility of making decisions for people that are really intense. There are times in my office where people just aren't ready to go no contact. They'll say they want to. We talk about how to do it. they can't do it. And I'll say, let's pause.
Yeah.
Let's pause because you'll know when.
Yeah.
Let's just pause. Let's try something else, right? So that's sort of how I work. And I don't think a lot of therapists function from that mindset. It's far more about having control in the room, being afraid of the patient, making sure that you're not doing anything wrong. I don't work that way. And it's not human to me.
Yeah. I've had experiences myself with therapists in the past where they're very just easy to please. So like I give them a couple of good answers and they're away, and then I just feel like I'm sort of like this isn't gonna work. But I also have noticed, and it's something that I talk a lot about because I do think a lot of vulnerable people out there do think that if somebody's a qualified therapist, then they are by definition safe and know what they're talking about, right? And I know people that have had some really bad experiences of working with therapists who have just spent the whole time trying to get them to work towards forgiveness and trying to see their parents in a different light. And it can be really re-traumatizing or sort of like continuing the trauma for these people that are trying to heal.
It's even continuing the trauma from an authority figure.
Yeah.
See, I see myself not as much as a therapist, but as a coach and an advocate. I don't use the fancy jargon. I don't play the therapist game. I'm there to listen, to hear, to advocate, and coach. But my job is to meet them where they are. My job is not to change them to my moral code. My job is to meet them where they are. Forgiveness is a really interesting thing. And for me, I don't forgive them for what they did to me. You know why? It's not the right equation for my circumstances.
Yeah.
The math doesn't math. They're not sorry. So you kind of need 1 + 1 to = 2. So there cannot be forgiveness if someone isn't sorry for me. But what I do, the little equation for me that works is I accept them for exactly who they are, for the exact abuser that they are. And I don't need them to be different. I could have days where I want them to be different, but I don't need them to be different. Acceptance has been healing for me. Forgiveness doesn't math. It doesn't work in the equation because someone has to be very sorry genuinely for forgiveness to occur. And people get all moral on this one.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think people are obsessed with forgiveness? Because it's one thing to like, because I'm like, as you know, I'm on the same page as you with this, right? Mm-hmm. It's one thing to be like, Josh, I just really disagree with you, right? Mm-hmm. But there's people never just disagree. They are angry that I won't forgive. And they're like, I don't care what you think, you are full of hate unless you find. Where do you think that obsession comes from?
I think it's religious.
Do you think it's rooted in our like religious history where like forgiveness was used, and then distorted as a bit of a power play?
I had this deep desire to make a new construct for forgiveness, but I couldn't get my head around how to do it. I wanted to create a psychological definition of forgiveness that was different than the religious forgiveness. So there could be 2 types.
Yeah.
Right? But you can't seem to separate. And so I chose a different word. That people get so upset that I use the word acceptance instead of forgiveness. That to me now, there's an insecurity in them. And maybe they even think they want to save me. I have to forgive, Well, I did a huge deep dive into a woman's book called The Christian's Guide to No Contact. It's kind of amazing because I'm not biblically literate. How many parts of the Bible do not promote forgiveness? But these things are not talked about. So I look at this pressure. Maybe their intention is good, but here's the facts. I have forgiven in my life and really evolved from that. I have also not forgiven in my life, and I have deeply evolved from that.
Yeah.
Okay. If someone is genuinely sorry, they take accountability, they give me an explanation. I really want to accept their remorse and I want to love them. I just want to love them more because they're seeing me, they're validating that they hurt me or whatever. That makes me love someone more. Forgiveness is so simple there.
Yeah.
But if you just deny and gaslight, project, twist, blame, and shame me and call me insane, and the fact that my parents would rather, my dad did, die and go to their graves than see me or my daughter ever again, that doesn't say anything about me.
Yeah.
It doesn't say anything about me not forgiving. They don't know if I forgive them or not. It doesn't say anything about me. So people who have to push an agenda to me are always coming from insecurity.
Yeah. I often think that if you're bypassing, right, and you're using forgiveness as your, like, rather than processing, dealing with, and being with the reality and the pain of that, I'm going to just say I forgive them, then the fact that you're like, that's not what I'm doing, it becomes a threat to what they're doing, right? And it bubbles up all of the stuff that they're bypassing. So I think there's a lot of that in there. I actually did a deep dive into forgiveness in general, right? And a lot of people say, forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person. It's just about freeing yourself. And I'm like, no. That's not forgiveness. If that's letting go, moving on, acceptance, right?
Yes.
That's which is for that's cool. I'm down with that. But let's not call it forgiveness, because forgiveness, the true definition of forgiveness, and there's like, I always say, like, there's energy to words. Like, when I forgive somebody, I'm giving that person some grace. And if somebody is still abusing you, or has abused you, I don't think they deserve that grace. And interestingly, there's some studies that were done that looked back over times when true forgiveness was needed. One of the times was when they looked at the war and what happened in Germany, in Nazi Germany, right?
Yeah.
And they said that there was a lot of issues when Germany came out and said, we're really sorry, and then sought forgiveness before taking real steps to amend the situation. It actually made the trauma for people affected worse. So then Germany had to backpedal a little bit and actually do some of the restorative work before forgiveness could happen, because it made the trauma worse. And then furthermore, if somebody's still abusing you, it's fucking dangerous to push somebody to forgive somebody who's still abusing them, because it helps with that barrier, with the anger stuff that you were talking about earlier. The appropriate anger and the need to not forgive the person that's abusing me right now is one of the things, probably the main thing, that's protecting me, right?
Can I share something totally vulnerable with you?
Please.
Being over forgiving made me hate myself. There was a look in my mother's eyes at the last fight that we'd had, and I could see in her that she had no respect for me. None, because I kept forgiving her. And I think to this day, she would never admit this, I think she's relieved that I finally said, no, I'm done. I could see it in her face. She thought I was a fucking idiot. I forgave her for 4.5 decades, to the point that I think she felt disgust for me.
Wow.
That only kept me more abused. So for anyone who wants to ride the pony of forgiveness, let me tell you what that did to me. I did not evolve. I de-evolved. I couldn't grow. I was stuck. I was trapped. I was abused for sport, just to see how much further she could fucking take it. She's relieved, Josh. Because the hope in my face to want my mom to love me was so glaring to her that she couldn't even respect me.
And so it was the giving up on forgiveness. It was the
100.
stopping seeking forgiveness that truly freed you. Wow. I've never heard a better definition, a better, more clear reason than that.
I've actually never shared that with anyone. And this is going to go out to everyone, and I'm fine with it. But I could see it. She had no respect for me because I was forgiving. She used it to abuse me, Josh. It got me more and more abused. It's like if a child does something bad, They want to run into the parent and have a solid wall. And they want the discipline deep in their bodies. They want to be disciplined, right and wrong. If every time a child runs in and the parent goes over, the child's going to look back like, what? Like, I can do even more. Well, I did that. I just kept bending. I wanted her love. And there were 9 marriages between my parents. So there was so much chaos and so much change. I wanted to hang on to anything, something, anything. But I'll never forget the look on her face that day. She was disgusted by me because I kept forgiving her. So now go tell people to forgive.
I mean, so it's one of the most, it's not one of the most, I think it's the most powerful thing I've ever heard on the subject of forgiveness. And and there's lots of tales out there of, the worst thing in the world happened to me and I forgave them and all that sort of stuff. And good for them. I'm sure it does happen in some circumstances, but that definition that you've just brought there, or, that like real life anecdote of the truth is just so important. And you said something that I think some people might, that maybe if they've never experienced this, find this truly hard to understand, that a mother could just be horrible to their daughter, and get worse and worse with it to see how far they could push it. And that's what happens, right?
That is what happened to me.
It's incredible.
Over and over and over and over and over. I was 45. And it was disgust for me. I was pathetic to her because of forgiveness. It got me more abused, more lost. I had so much self-hatred. I was so mad that I couldn't reconcile. How do I stand up for myself and still keep her? And she had me locked into this just very sadistic game that it was so surreal when I really realized it, that sometimes that covert abuse, you can't see it out loud. So I would doubt myself, right? And then there'd be a little reward if I would forgive her, because she knew she could start the cycle again. But for some reason that day, I saw it. It was disgust for me.
It's interesting as well that you say sadistic. I can never say the word, but I don't think people realize that parents can be like that, right? Can you explain a little bit what you mean by that?
I think that evil is a spirit of mental illness that needs a human weakness to operate through.
Wow.
With pride being at the core of narcissism. And so it is a weakness, but when you're little and they own you and they pay for you, and they're your gods, they are your first powers, and they're evil and you don't know any different. I used to think that she had an outside voice, like a, "Hi, Nancy. Oh my God, it's so nice to see you." And but there was also this inside voice that I got.
Yeah.
And I just figured everyone was like that. Even guests in someone else's home, I'd be like, well, they're being that way because they have company. But I didn't know that not everybody was getting in the dark what I was getting. And she used to say to me, "You hate me, you hate me." And I was so confused. I tried so hard for her love. And the bottom line is that was projection. She's always hated me, Josh. She hates me. She's always hated me. I was in her way. I was a girl. I wasn't a boy. I must have just reflected maybe her own unresolved trauma to her, which I'm not sure what her trauma really was. She had a pretty privileged life, but she hated me.
And I think that's like, and look, I will always say that I think there's another layer when it's a mother and a daughter. I don't know, man. It just comes with another layer of energy for me. And I think this is why you can't get the reason I asked about the sadistic stuff is because I don't think that people can get too lost trying to look for a why, because you're look. There's the things that they do where it's like, oh, they did this, and you can see that they did that because it keeps them the victim, right? And it
Yeah.
keeps them at the center of the universe, or keeps them at the center of the story. But then there's these other things that they will do where you're like, I cannot see any other reason why they did that other than to just hurt me. And I think that more than anything else, that's the hardest to process, when it's just hate filled and evil. And I think that people
That
don't understand that.
they don't understand that, and it's surreal to them to the point that they think that can't be true.
Yeah.
Listen, listen, I get it. I did it with her for 45 years.
Yeah.
Okay. But she hated me and wanted me to know. So, and then I'd get a dose of kindness. She had to keep me kind of addicted, right, to that process. But this is why the why is never going to be healing.
And it
I,
can keep you stuck in it.
yes, because the why, I kept trying a new audition.
Yeah.
Well, maybe she's this way. So if I try this, maybe that will work. The why is important just for knowledge. I think knowledge is power, but it is the how of what she did to me that was damaging to me.
Yeah.
The 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 people are so ignorant about forgiveness. I love it as a fluffy butterfly, smurfy, glittery. That's great. I love that. And again, I have forgiven many people, and it was a beautifully evolving experience. But if you think of interpartner violence, forgiveness is how these women or men get more and more and more abused, because they lose respect for you. And she did.
Yeah.
She was disgusted by me because I kept forgiving her.
You know what's really interesting as well, just thinking of people that might be listening to this or watching this, is that, again, I think if you're not careful, when you look online, you'll be fed the idea that you need to heal from saying she just hated me, or she some of them things that you're saying. Actually, the reality is that true healing will get you to a place where you can say that truth and be like, that is the truth. Might make me sad, might make me upset, might make me angry, all them things. And I know it. I'm dealt with it or dealing with it, and I'm fucking living my life.
That's right.
In spite of that,
I
I'm
will
living my
never,
life.
yeah, right. Like, I will never heal this. I'll be healing
Yeah.
it as a verb forever.
Yeah.
There's no way to wrap this type of healing up in some kind of a nice bow for society. These things live in me. They live in me now as more empowered aspects of my personality. I've learned a lot from forgiving someone to the point of them losing complete respect for me. Okay. I stopped doing that. I learned from that experience, like, stop doing that. If I find myself doing it, my body tells me now. I can recognize when I'm doing it or if I'm about to do it. And usually when I'm wanting to forgive the most, I've learned, is when I need to set the boundary. I was replacing forgiveness for boundaries because I was afraid to set the boundary. So I would just forgive, and it was easy. But it became emotional torture for me, and she capitalized on it. My love for her was so genuine. I wanted so bad for her to love me consistently, not every now and again. And as I got more into my development of being not a little girl, but a woman, it just got worse and worse and worse. I had a really hard time when my therapist said she was jealous of you, because I have a daughter and I'm so madly in love with her. The thought of being jealous of her is like other galaxy. I'm like, what? So I still struggle to process that, but I see it in the sense that I don't think my mom ever grew up. I think she's a 14-year-old mean girl. And so as soon as I became competition for her in whatever level, I think her hatred for me just just grew
Do you
and
think
grew. And
one of the like clear patterns I see when it's a mum and a daughter is the moment that you hit like your teenage years and start transitioning from a young girl to a woman, the abuse turns from the sort of typical controlling stuff to the really abusive, like
oh yeah,
you're a slut, you're like, they'll try and I see like befriend all of your male friends and stuff like
oh,
that, and like,
I lived all of it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Did you have to live through that
yeah,
in adulthood as well?
yeah.
It's awful, man.
And the fact that she was with four different partners and my dad had five wives, I can only imagine, all the change. I've never even taken any type of a dive into the step family trauma that I also went through,
Yeah,
right? So there's a lot there, but my parents are the core wounding for me. The other people, a lot of them were in and out so fast it didn't really fucking matter. But some of them really did damage me. Some of these people that they married were very damaging to me. I just grew up feeling just so fucking alone,
mm,
and they were all I had for a life raft, right? But I was anorexic from 16 to 18. And I'm not sure. There are so many reasons why now I understand. I'm very afraid to vomit. Thank God I would never vomit. I'd rather be stabbed in the face than vomit. Even today, I'm terrified of it. But
yeah,
to be anorexic is incredibly hard. I mean, it is having willpower to overcome hunger is very hard. And I overcame it. And suddenly I felt in control of being good or bad based on food rather than her. And I was dissociated because I was starving to death. Um, and when that was caught, um, she said to me, "Well, you have no idea just how lucky you are that you can get fat.
mm,
I can eat whatever I want and I just stay tiny. And it's really hard being me. At least you can get fat."
mm,
And all I heard my whole life from both of my parents was, this person's fat, that person has a gut. Like they're just critical of everybody's appearance. And so then in me, I'm like, oh my God, I'm fat. I'm 82 pounds. I'm like, I'm fat. I'm fat. She thinks I'm fat. Like she was just evil. Who
mm.
says that? Instead of worrying that I could die, that my electrolytes were off, that I grew peach fuzz on my body because I was so starving, take me to a fucking doctor
Yeah,
instead of saying, well, at least you can get fat. You're so lucky. I'm sorry. That's evil. So there's no way that my brain looks at that and says, why would she do that? That will ever make sense.
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what is going on inside of her. No matter the PhD, I don't truly get it. It's so fucked up that I don't truly get it. And socially, people love her. She runs charities for burned kids and cancer kids. She teaches suicide classes. Like, I mean, she's brilliant.
yeah. It's always the way, and that, like it is always the way, and it's look, that's abusive in its own way, isn't it? The fact that they
Yep.
like convince everybody that they're this incredible human being, and I've seen versions of that time and time again. Um, so things changed for you really when you like we've talked about that moment when you finally decided I'm not going to forgive. I'm going to move on with my life. What's the healing journey since then look like? How have you got to be the the person that you are today? And that's a big question.
I think that when I cut ties, the thing with me, I've learned a pattern I have is I am the most warm hearted, loving person, generous to a fault, perhaps, until.
Yeah.
And then I can probably from their experience be the most cold-hearted person they've ever met. So one gift I've been given is when I'm done, I'm done. So when I was done, I knew I was done and I was done forever. And I was going to have to, me and London, we were going to have to make it alone. My daughter, London, and I, we were going to, and I was just going to have to figure it out. I was terrified. The post separation abuse actually helped me in some respect because as soon as the volume was down, my perspective grew
Yeah.
and I was really able to see some things. Um, And she did some post-separation abuse, cutting me out of every will, not allowing my daughter to get the education money for college left to her by my grandmother, blocking me from that. I let it all go. I'm not going to go to fucking court. My thought was, well, some people are so poor that all they have is money. Keep it.
Yeah.
Keep it. You have to starve me back? Like, so she exposed herself, and all the things that she tried just nailed the coffin shut even more deeply. My life did open up to meeting my boyfriend, and he's got 2 kids, and he's got a wonderful family, and I've got a select, very small group of friends that I love and adore. And you know what? It's enough.
Yeah.
And I read and I journaled and I went to therapy every fucking week, sometimes twice a week. And I committed to me. And I wanted to turn my predators to a purpose. I felt like there was got to be some good that I can do with it. I think just as a human, having an impact is just a part of my authentic code. I think maybe being a disruptor, maybe we're born into these roles, being disruptors and having an impact. And I just I wanted to tell my story. I wanted to be no contact before me was not in any books when it came to family. And I wrote, But It's Your Family, which today is still my highest selling book.
How long ago
Probably the
was
most,
that? How long ago was that published?
oh gosh, 6 years ago.
Wow.
And I know it was the first of its kind because I read everything to try and find anyone that would say, you can cut ties, right? And no one did. But it was in interpartner violence, and it was in all these other areas that you can cut ties. Go. In fact, run, right? Don't let a guy treat you like that. Don't let a boss or a girlfriend treat you like that. Run, not family. So I did. My skin wasn't as thick as it is now. The feedback and the haters were really hard for me at first. I'm like, oh my God, I just brought on a whole onslaught of my mother to me. That's not even her,
Yeah.
and am I going to be able to handle it? Am I going to be okay? And there weren't any other experts really talking about it. I became very kind of isolated and introverted. I did not expect the book to do what it did. I didn't. I had no idea that I was going to make no contact in the family system like a thing. And I regretted it at first. I'm
Wow.
like, why did I do this to myself? What was I thinking? Like, I'm going to go poke every bear. Like, that's just like my mom, my way. Like, and then I had to go through all kinds of stuff. Like, it's my fault I'm getting these comments. I shouldn't have written this. I should have kept it to myself. I never know when to keep my mouth shut. I mean, I did all of this, Josh. So then when other people started writing about it, or whether I gave them that permission with that book, I don't know. I know I'm the first one that's done it. I hope I did. I didn't mean to, but I hope I did. I did. This door's open, so we're here. But it kind of saved my life, Josh. I mean, I could not heal with any level of contact with them. She's so evil. Any bit of her 1 3-minute phone call would take me down into confusion and feeling depressed and not good enough for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it. And so I think I just took hold of myself. I had to face parts of myself that I hated. I felt so weak and dumb and um, pathetic, really, just how they saw me. I had to undo all that conditioning that I was all of those ways. I have days where I'm still doing some of that, right? Um, but it's been so worth it. I can tell you, I am genuinely clean in my body. I'm happy. I really enjoy my life. I love words. I love writing. I'm a huge athlete. I love doing all my things. I love my kid, my animals. Like, I just find joy in things that maybe other people see. Because I had so little joy, I really fucking appreciate things now.
Yeah.
And knowing the power that I did it. They never thought I could do it. That family of mine thought I was a loser.
Yeah.
Well, now you see my face wherever you go.
I love that.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Have they, since the book come out, have they tried to make any contact?
One time through a flying monkey came onto my page, and I ended up recognizing who the woman was. Um, I wrote her quite a letter, and she deactivated her Facebook account. I don't think that she really knew who my mom was. She said that she was in my life until I was 12, which is fictitious. I work with a PI for divorce sometimes, and I had him do a background check on her. She was in my life around 2 years old, two to three, and she was never in my life since. And now my mom was probably giving her narrative about my life, but she's like, no one ever saw your abuse. This is a money making scheme, blah blah blah. And I was given information about my family that they really wouldn't want me to have. And so I let her know that I had that information as a way to set a boundary with them. Like, kind of, if you look at it, if you're abusing me, I'm going to write about it.
Yeah.
So I'd stop, because now I have this other information on you that you would never want out there. And if you start to make it my story to tell, that's a dangerous thing to do with me.
Yeah.
So I would not. So now very little, nothing since that time. My dad passed away. That was used against me. People were threatened not to tell me my own dad died. But I found out on Google, my hips started hurting out of nowhere. And I'm actually a very high tolerance to pain. And I was to the point like, I need an MRI. So I looked up hips in a book called Heal Your Life, and it said stubborn lumps of anger at parents.
Wow.
And I was like, what? I don't feel angry. So I put my dad's name into Google, and he had died 2 weeks prior.
Wow.
And his service was 2 days later, and I had no more hip pain.
Wow.
So we will be told. And that put a trust in me that we will be told.
Mm.
Right. So that for me was, I've had these really amazing moments sometimes, Joss, of just being reassured that I'm on the right path and I'm doing the right thing. And my sense is that way, in being all alone, I think you survive in the world a little bit differently. And so your senses are probably a little more alive to nuances and changes. And other people have parents, and I get miracles. So I'll take it.
I love that. Other people have parents and I have miracles, so I'll take it. Amazing. Look, it feels like a really nice way to start to bring us to a close here. I feel like I know you even more, and I you know what I admire, and I feel like in the conversation that we've had over the last over an hour, I've got to see you in sort of all of your glory. When we come on here and your happy usual self, yeah, and then we talked about some of the stuff, and of course though then it I love that you just bring the true emotion to what you're talking about. I think maybe that's why we connect in the way that we do, because I like real people, and I have this thing where I say my favorite people are the people who make me feel the way that they are showing me that they are. So what I mean by that is I meet a lot of people who are telling me one thing and my body's feeling another. And I'm like, they might be acting really happy. And I'm like, you are fucking not happy. I would prefer it if they just showed me they weren't happy, because then at least my body would feel safe, because I'd be like, oh, you are what you are. So or somebody would talk about a really a thing that they should be angry about, and they're not angry. And I'm like, why are you not? Who are you trying to impress with your no anger, So I love that you bring the truth, because that's what I'm about. And I'm just so excited to bring this to that room on the 4th of October.
I am too. And hopefully I won't fall on anyone, and hopefully I can get out of my car correctly. So as long as I can make it there.
Well, look, whatever you do, you'll be yourself, and that's all we care about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm most excited about. So It's mad.
Me
It's
too.
mad that we've not met in person, right? And that's
No,
gonna be when we meet.
I always tell people, I'm like, he's like, I feel like you're like a soul mate, a brother to me, which is so healing for me because my older brother was the golden child and I just worshiped him when I was little, just
Yeah,
like everyone else. But um, I see him as just as abused as me. It's just sad today that he's a perpetrator, but I really just genuinely feel very connected with you. And you create a space too where I can feel that guard of mine go down. I naturally have it. I respect that about myself. I needed it a long time ago.
yeah, right,
But
yeah,
I want this what we're sharing today. I wanted to be vulnerable. It's something you said really brought that memory up. And I think it's important to understand that forgiveness can be a weapon
yeah,
and that we can teach everybody there. And that, this, I picture this event being just cozy and just warm and comfortable, safe, and it's going to have the pain. Everything's invited. Let's just invite the process in. Let the process take care of you. Let it guide you through. Josh and I are going to be there to support, to care, to hold, to love whoever is in need of that. Right. And we're going to educate, empower, and grow. And fuck, man, we write at dawn. Let's go.
yeah,
We have each other, right?
yeah. Let's go.
Go.
Look, this has been incredible. I can't wait for everybody to. I mean, this alone is going to be healing for so many people to hear this podcast. And then, yeah, in a very short period of time, I will be out there with you and we will be together in communion with everybody else and having an incredible day. So any parting things you want to say before I close this down?
Well, one, I really want to hug you so bad when I get to see you in person finally and just feel that connection with you. And I just really feel this was such an incredible podcast. And I just appreciate your emotional availability and even helping to create a space for me to be open. I appreciate that about you. It's very natural in the way that you go. And I just say, let's disrupt. Let's go.
Let's go. Roll on the 4th of October. Thank you very much. I've loved this conversation. I can't wait to share it with people. I did tell you it would be dysfunctional. So thank you for sticking around till the end here. And if you have enjoyed this podcast, then please help me to grow Dysfunctional by sharing with your friends on social media. You can find me at Josh_FFW. And then wherever you're listening to this or watching this, please make sure that you've liked and subscribed, left us a 5-star review and a comment if your platform allows it. And I'll see you on the next one.